Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the decisions meeting for the Transportation and Environment Subcommittee of the House Appropriations Committee. Just for context, this is the culmination of weeks and weeks of the subcommittee's work, and even more than that, of the staff's work to analyze the budget proposal of the governor and hear from the agencies as well as other stakeholders and advocates, and come to some decisions about what to do with the governor's proposed budget. A big thanks at the top to Ken Weaver on our committee staff who assists us, Steve McCulloch, our overall sort of coordinator for the DLS staff, the analysts, Andrew Gray, Emily Haskell, Caleb Weiss, and Tanya Zimmerman, and I'm sure many other people, Cherie, who helps handle our streaming, particularly this year with the new tech aspect of her job. So we really appreciate everybody's support and help. And with that, I believe I get to turn the floor over to Steve, right?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee. Things are pretty much like they have been in the past, but just slightly different. You have one document in front of you that contains everything that used to be in 3 separate documents in previous years. So all of the DLS recommendations are noted as normal. And then any color page item has a heading in the document that says color page item and is included in that same document. And the same thing goes for BRPA. BRPA items are identified with a heading saying BRPA items. So the analysts will just go from page to page. We're going to go in page order. And as their items come up, they will come on camera and present their items for your consideration. Any questions you have, obviously, let us know. There are other meetings going on and analysts may not be available. And in fact, I will start with Tanya's items because she had to leave for her other committee assignment.
Hey, Steve, just before we start, since we don't have the usual people running to the side to grab the pages, is this document available for some people?
It should be posted on the website.
Great.
Yes, sir. It was posted 5 minutes before we went live.
Great. Thank you.
So everybody should be able to follow along. So starting on page 1 of the document, that's numbered page because there are the title page and everything, is the Public Service Commission. The recommendation number 1 was to increase turnover from 4 to 6% to better reflect recent experience. This would be a special fund reduction of $290,993, and the agency disagreed with this recommendation.
Move to reject.
Second.
There's been a move and a second to reject. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
On the bottom of page 1, there is a color page item. This is narrative that just asks for a report on the Consumer Choice website utilization and plans for increasing the utilization of that website.
Move to adopt.
Second.
There's been a move and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Okay, on page 2 begins the Office of People's Counsel. The recommendation was to concur with the governor's allowance. However, there is a color page item. Again, narrative. This would request an evaluation of the adequacy of the cap on the utility assessment. My understanding is the PSC cap was adjusted last year. The Office of People's Counsel was not. This just asks for an evaluation of the adequacy to provide funding for those organizations.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Move in a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
Okay, that's it for People's Counsel. Next is Chesapeake Bay.
On page 3 of the Chesapeake Bay overview, the one recommendation there is for annual budget bill language, restricting funding in a number of agencies' budgets until the submission of a report on historical and projected Chesapeake Bay spending. The agencies concur in part, noting that they will continue to provide the annual funding report, but disagree with the restriction of funding.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been a move and a second. Is there any discussion? Delegate Beitzel, for your benefit, we're on page 3.
Okay, thank you. That's a short bill.
Chesapeake Bay overview. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On
Okay.
page 6,
Thank you, Andrew. On page 6 begins the Maryland Energy Administration. There is one item, recommended committee narrative on strategic energy investment fund revenue spending and fund balance. The agency concurs with this narrative.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moving a second, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Next item.
On page 7 is the second recommendation is also narrative on the Maryland Gas Expansion Fund activities. The agency concurs. There is a color page item at the bottom of page 7 that is related to this, and it just would restrict funds brought in from the Maryland Energy Infrastructure grants to be used for energy assistance. So if you're interested in the language, we would recommend that you adopt the narrative with a modification to conform with how the language goes. And that's just some, to make sure that
I
they don't.
move to adopt with technical modification to conform with the color page item.
Second.
There's been a move and second, any discussion? Delegate Beitzel?
Hey, yes, Mr. Chairman, just the color page, since that's different than what the agency concurred with, is the agency okay with this language in the color page?
I
I don't think
don't,
they've submitted a formal position, but no.
No?
No.
Did I understand you correctly? Agency's not in favor of what's stated on the color page?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone want to be recorded in the opposition? Delegate Beitzel is opposed. Delegate Kittleman's opposed. Just Beitzel and Kittleman. Okay, next item.
on the bottom of page 8, color page item, requesting narrative on electric vehicle recharging equipment rebate program in multi-unit dwellings. And this is a color page item. I don't know if the agency has seen this, but I understand that all of the items being requested must be published in some other report. So
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Delegate Beitzel, is your hand still up from before? Okay, thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
that's the Department of Planning.
On page 9, the recommendation there is to delete a long-term vacant planner positions, $81,528 general fund reduction. The agency disagreed, noting that the position reflects an internal promotion is undergoing reclassification.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and adopted. Is there any discussion? Delegate Kittleman. You're on mute, Delegate Kittleman.
Thank you. Why do we disagree, or why do we continue to support this language when the agency says that they're in the process of actually reclassifying and undergoing, that they're doing what it is that apparently we're telling them they can't do?
The recommendation was based on the idea that this position is a long-term vacant position. Therefore, they were not showing the kind of urgency in terms of filling it. Therefore, the reduction was recommended on that basis.
So we're punishing them while they're in the middle of finally getting it done?
It remains to be seen when exactly they will fill that position. That is certainly one possibility.
Can they fill it if this language is put into the budget?
This would reduce the position, so they would not be able to fill that position. They could reclassify another vacant position for this purpose instead.
I just don't think that's a very wise thing for us to do, so.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting the DLS recommendation, please signify by, I'm sorry, Delegate Beitzel.
Oh,
You
I hit my hand too soon.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Would anybody like to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Kittleman, Delegate Beitzel, and Delegate Metzger in opposition. Okay.
Next item.
Next item on page 10 is the Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund. It's non-budgeted and there's no other recommendations.
Move to adopt.
Concur. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Next item.
On page 11 is the Maryland Insurance Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Next item.
The next item is a DLS addition to BRFA action, which would authorize the transfer in fiscal 2021 of $5 million from the rate stabilization fund to the general fund.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Next item.
Next, oh, sorry, go ahead.
The next item is on page 12 for the State Lottery and Gaming Control Agency. DLS recommends reducing funding for lottery advertising by $3 million to be more in line with historical spending levels, and the agency disagrees.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 13.
Oh, I'm sorry, Delegate Kittleman, were you opposed to the?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Delegate Kittleman will be recording the opposition to the reduction in advertising of the State Lottery and Gaming Commission. Thank you. Next item.
Department of Transportation begins on page 13 with the transportation overview as the beginning. On page 13 is annual narrative requiring notification of change in the capital program. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 14 at the bottom, item 2 is annual language establishing a position cap for the department. You'll see X's in several places. Those will be replaced at the end if no reductions are made in personnel and there were none recommended. That would reflect the allowance. The agency concurs with this cap language.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
Takes us over to page 16, Office of the Secretary. Item number 1 is annual language restricting the operating grants in aid to the amount budgeted. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 17 is a color page item, which would restrict $500,000 in the Secretary's office until 2 reports are received on the Purple Line procurement currently undergoing to replace the design build contractor on that project. The agency has seen this language and did concur with modifications which are reflected in the language. So
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next item.
page 19, another color page item that would restrict $100,000 in the Secretary's office until a report on sworn officer positions in the Maryland Transit Police is provided.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 21 is the PAYGO for the Secretary's office. And item number 1 is annual language restricting expenditure of funds for capital projects in excess of $500,000 without notification of the committees. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 22 is the WMATA operating grant. The recommendation is to concur with the governor's allowance. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 23 is the WMATA capital grant. The recommendation is to concur with the governor's allowance. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next item.
On page 24 through 26 is the debt service requirements. There are 3 annual pieces of language recommended. 2 of them establish debt caps. That's number 1 and 3. The first one for consolidated transportation debt. The third one for non-traditional debt. Item number 2 in the middle of page 24 requests report on non-traditional debt. The agency concurs with all 3 of these these annual languages. And you might want to
So
move
you-
item.
So you want 3? You want us to go one by one, Steve?
Well, it's up to you, but since it's kind of annual language and they concur, you might want to move them on all 3.
Okay,
Move
move
to
all
adopt all
3.
three.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
That takes us to page 27. State Highway Administration operating. There is a color page item, requested narrative on tourism signage for microbrewery and distilleries as part of the emerging agricultural businesses. Again, this is a color page item, but requests just a report. No funds are tied up.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 28 begins the State Highway Administration PAYGO. Item number 1 is a restriction of $27,017 for the city of Deer Park, or the town of Deer Park in Garrett County, until they issue.
Move we reject.
Second.
Any discussion?
I don't know about that, Wendell.
All in favor of rejecting the well thought out recommendation of DLS, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
I'm
Next
never gonna
item.
buy Deer Park water again.
Next
I don't
item.
think it's produced there anymore. On the bottom of page 28 is a color page item requesting a report on road construction workers' safety.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 29, there are 2 additional color page items. They are related. The one at the top of the page is a language that would be added to the bill stating intent that anytime a county municipality is aware of a suicide attempt on one of its bridge under its control, it should increase surveillance and construct barriers. The narrative at the bottom of page 29 asks for SHA to study the best practices for suicide prevention on bridges from surrounding states and to provide that information to municipalities and counties.
Move to
Okay.
adopt. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of both items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
The next item on page 20 is the operating budget for the Maryland Port Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
On the next page is the PAYGO capital budget for the Maryland Port Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 32 is the operating budget for the Motor Vehicle Administration. DLS recommend adopting narrative requesting 2 reports on the implementation of the Real ID Act In Maryland, this would be a pre-deadline report and a post-deadline report for the October 1st Real ID deadline.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
On the following page is the PAYGO capital budget for the Motor Vehicle Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 34 begins the Maryland Transit Administration. The first recommendation was a BRFA action from DLS recommending that the committee adopt a provision waiving basically the mandated appropriation for operating. There is a color page item below that that relates to that. So I don't know if you want to hear them both or act on the first one.
We're going to do them together.
Okay, the color page item on the begins on page 34 would essentially fence off the $67.1 million that the operating budget for MTA as it came in the governor's allowance is short of the mandated amount, and would restrict $6.5 million for a capital project in the secretary's office, and the remaining $60.6 million would be fenced off from the State Highway Administration's system preservation and minor project category. And this would, in effect, make MTA operating whole for the mandate.
So let me just add that as I've shared with you all individually, Jacqueline Hartman met with Senator McCray and myself to talk about the mandate issue. And the secretary has sent a letter indicating that a supplemental will be coming through to provide some of the funding under the understanding from Senator McCray and me with the agreement of the full committee chairs, obviously, and the speaker and the Senate president, that we would do a BRFA item to sort of adjust the requirement downward based on the current realities they're facing and the current needs. And so once that supplemental budget comes through, we'll be ready to make the adjustment based on that understanding. But until that time, they're aware that we're going to continue to move forward with this. Again, recognizing that they were kind enough to make Jacqueline available for the meeting and understand that in the future, if they want to change a mandate, there's a process for doing that. And they don't get to just do it unilaterally and wait for Steve to find out. Does that make sense, everybody? Does anybody have any questions, any discussion?
And based on that, you would want to reject the BRFA item and adopt the color page.
Move to reject the BRFA action and adopt the color page item.
I second both of those actions.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does anybody want to be recorded in the negative? Okay, next item. Thank you.
Page 35, there is another color page item that would restrict $100,000 pending receipt of a report on the provision of non-emergency medical transport by locally operated transit systems.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 36 is MTA capital. The recommendation was to concur with the governor's allowance. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On the next page, page 37, is the operating budget for the Maryland Aviation Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Next item.
On the following page is the PAYGO capital budget for the Aviation Administration. DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 39 is the Maryland Transportation Authority, the operating budget. Here DLS recommended adding budget bill language that would restrict 2.5 million in both the Port Administration and the Aviation Administration pending the submission of a report on fiscal stress being experienced by the Transportation Authority going out through fiscal 2031. And the agency,
So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Delegate Krim, did you?
No, I'm just going to make the motion, Mr. Chairman, move to modify to restrict $500,000 from each agency and change the due date to November 15th.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was going to state that the 2.5 was a little extreme, I think, in this situation, and I agree with the modification language.
Great. And as you all recall, we also discussed the modification of the deadline with the agency at the hearing as well. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
On the following page is the PAYGO capital budget for the Transportation Authority. It's non-budgeted and there were no additional DLS recommendations.
Move, no action, don't have to do anything. Is that what it says?
I think you have to move to concur, correct?
Move.
I think for non-budgeted, we actually do nothing.
No.
Do nothing.
Nothing in the budget to actually act on, so no action or concur with,
Necessary.
Next item.
Page 41, the Department of Natural Resources. First recommendation there was for narrative on the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Spending Report. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Bottom of page 41 is a color page item. This would be for committee narrative on Montgomery County Enhanced Deer Management Strategy.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any
A question?
discussion?
Yes, please.
Delegate Weitzel?
Yeah, I was late because I had a bill hearing on a venison issue, House Bill 1017. I think, and based on my bill hearing and discussion with Delegate Lupke, that there was a bill in from Montgomery County that dealt with venison processing and giving the venison away to food banks or whatever. And I think they're coming up with a bill, and I agreed to roll in a bill that they're having a grant that's working with DNR. They're coming up with some grant program rather than having payment. And I'm wondering if Andrew knows anything about that bill and if this language is necessary.
I believe this would be a separate item because this is addressing, I guess, the deer population as a whole and not any kind of donation component for the venison. So this is more a concern that the population is growing out of control.
Okay, right. To make
Delegate Kittleman?
I don't know the process exactly, but is it appropriate for me to ask to move to have Howard County added in along with Montgomery?
So let me suggest this. So just by way of background for everybody, over the last interim, Delegate Lutke in his delegate capacity, not his majority leader capacity, helped lead a little summer study work group of the Montgomery County delegation. DNR was very kind to assist us with that, as were many other stakeholders, and this language is designed to sort of keep that work going. Delegate Kittleman, happy to work with you on language and a process for Howard County, but would ask that we keep this intact for the one county, and then you and I could perhaps talk further about what Montgomery County's been doing and how you might, I don't know if you want to replicate our approach because we still have a lot of deer, but maybe learn from some things we've done right or done wrong for Howard County. And I'm also
That would be
happy to
great.
talk to, Chair Feldmark, your delegation chair, about that as well. Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Further discussion?
Although I will say that the only time I've ever had a close encounter with a deer was right here in Annapolis, just before the second bridge. Came that close.
Now Vice Chair Shang is going to chime in asking that we add Anne Arundel County.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say Baltimore County.
Let's gang up on the deer.
Well, I'm not coming in for Garrett County because we take care of our own up there.
Yeah, it's
We might
called-
bring you down to take care of ours, Delegate
Yeah, it's
Bledsoe.
called
All right.
roadkill.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 42 is another color page item. This will restrict $100,000 for a coal combustion byproduct study.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 43 is a BRFA item. This came in with the governor's BRFA. Repeal the fiscal 22 only the mandate of general funds to the Fisheries Research and Development Fund. The funding the overall appropriation doesn't change because they're able to use balance to fund that.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Top of page 44 is another BRFA action. This is an addition that would require the Maryland National Capital Parking Planning Commission to transfer up to $5 million from its park taxes balance to the state general fund on or before October 1, 2021.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
On page 45 is the Department of Agriculture. DLS recommended concur with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt. Second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 46 is the Department of the Environment. First recommendation there is for committee narrative on the budgeting of prior year actual personnel expenditures, some concerns about how that information was reflected. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item.
Bottom of the page 46 is a color page item that restrict $200,000 for Land and Materials Administration funding. This is pending the submission of the scrap tire annual report, which has not necessarily been submitted in a timely fashion in the past.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Next item.
Page 47 is another color page item. This concerns the enforcement and inspection position strength assessment and vacant position filling. So it'd be language restricting funding to the Maryland Department of the Environment and the Maryland Department of Agriculture until the submission of that information.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I'd say next item, but that might be the last item.
One last one on page 50, Maryland Environmental Service. The DLS recommendation there is for committee narrative. The agency concurs with this. They do note that they're going to be providing fiscal 22 and 23 estimates, but I think that's within the context of this narrative. So they're concurring with this narrative.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, now there's no more next item.
I have a question, Mr.
Delegate.
Chairman.
Delegate Bledsoe.
That language from the Maryland Energy Administration, was that accepted or rejected or not? Remember that language issue that I sent you? Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
To the Public Service Commission? Yeah, we did that
That's
right
right.
before you got here. That was one of the first.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I
Yep.
missed it. All right. Thanks.
Yep, no, it was one of the first pages, so we did that before you
All right. All right.
signed
Thank
on.
you. Thank you.
So I believe we are done.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? On the language that we adopted regarding the mandated funding, are we going to meet again if that resolves?
We
to
can
have
deal with it
further
at the
action
full
on that
committee level. I
item?
mean, obviously, I will be communicating with all of you. You'll know if a supplement comes down, it has to be right across the desk. We can deal with it in full committee. If the subcommittee has to reconvene, if it gets removed in the Senate, we'll work that out. We're not going to we're not going to accidentally do something we don't mean to do. There's plenty of time
Okay.
before the budget is wrapped up.
Okay,
Could I get everybody to just look into their camera for a second, if that's all right?
Yeah. Let me take my glasses off. All right.
all right, we taking a picture?
I'm taking a picture.
Let me get my jacket on.
Smile. All right.
I don't have my jacket on.
You look
Mr.
great.
Chairman,
It looks like
Mr.
you're working
Chairman.
hard.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a comment before we close out.
Sure.
I would like to commend the chairman of our subcommittee and our vice chair. I think the committee really, I thank you for your leadership, and things went really smoothly. And I want to really thank the DLS analyst and our committee folks for the help that they gave us and comment on the decision-making document. I think it's great that they have it in an order that we can just follow through. In the past, we've had to go from page to page, take this color page. So thanks everybody for all the effort that they put in to help.
I second everything he said.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as we were going through the decision document, because I recall every year, you have to, okay, put it down, go get something else. This went straight through, so.
Well, let me add my thanks again to the staff. We did name them all up front, but I'll thank them all again. And I just hope that Warren Deschanel was consulted on this new consolidated approach. But with that, I think we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. It's been, I know we'll meet a few more times on some bills, but it's been a great session so far, and I appreciate all the collaboration and support. Thank you,
Okay,
God
everybody.
bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you,
Bye.
folks. I love y'all.